Hello and welcome to the Stacey West YouTube channel this time. I am your host for today's episode. My name's Charlie, and today, something that I think might be a first, definitely a first on the YouTube channel, might be a first across the whole content. We have got a bit of an international episode as we are joined by Tony Robinson from Across the Pitch podcast. Now, Tony, you're based in Toronto, Canada, is that right?
Yes, and a pleasure to be with you, Charlie. Thanks for the invitation. I'm based in Toronto, originally from Accrington, lifelong Stanley supporter. The producer and the chief of the show is actually out of Phoenix, Arizona. Never been to Accrington, but took up following Accrington, started the podcast. Myself and him, and then we have a gentleman that is in Accrington, sort of like a club historian, Darren Woodhead. Phil Kennedy's in Arizona, and Darren's on the ground in Accrington. So there's, between the three of us, we try and cover everything Accrington Stanley, past and the present.
That's absolutely brilliant. That's really, really good. So, as you may have seen from the thumbnail and from the title, today we're going to be having a chat. Basically, who is Lukas Jensen? So, as for those of you that haven't seen, we signed a new goalkeeper from Burnley, a free agent as he was getting released, and his name is Lukas Jensen. Now, he was on loan at Accrington last season, hence why we've got Tony on to talk about him. So, Tony, I guess the headline question is, who is Lukas Jensen? What sort of a goalkeeper are we getting?
Well, you're getting a very talented individual, and I like the intro where you said from Burnley, and I guess being a Stanley supporter, I like to say he's coming from Accrington, although he was under contract from Burnley, but because he knew pretty well he was going to get released, a month or so before the end of the season, and I think to be honest, if we'd have stayed in League One, would have been a good chance because he did express a desire to stay. So I know, he's definitely capable to play in League One, if not at the next level. As I say, very talented, athletic, a very nice young individual. The crowd will like him, and the players playing for him or in front of him will like him. Good shot stopper. Sometimes I would say, and this is something that I would have said whether he was playing for us or he left, his decision making at times is the area of this game that he may need to work on. And when I say that, it's the crosses coming in. Sometimes he might hesitate to go or stay back. As you know, when you hesitate, sometimes you get caught in no man's land. But when he's in command of his box, he's as good as any in the league as far as I'm concerned. He came in on loan, and Toby Savin was basically the number one. But he sort of gradually got in and took over that number one position. And the other thing that really, I think, let him down in some of our fans' eyes was he got a second yellow for a red card, or for 2 yellows, and then got sent off. And then I think within the next match, when he came back, within 10 minutes, he got sent off again. And they were both similar incidents where he came out of the box to challenge a defender for the ball and challenged I thought I lost a picture. Sorry. He challenged the striker for the ball and took the striker out. So right. It was like back to back. And I think that's a part of his game that, again, this decision-making process, if he sort of works on that, you got yourselves a good one there.
Well, that's really good to hear. I think especially sort of a goalkeeper being able to command their area, because he's 6'6", I believe. Yeah. So for those of you that have clicked on this YouTube video, a little bit of a behind the scenes thing, I was sort of making the thumbnail and trying to get a photo of Lukas Jensen and then trying to squeeze him into this thumbnail that I'm trying to make was very, very difficult for somebody that tall. So if it looks a little bit skew, if you know why.
But yeah, well, that's why, and as I say, that's I think why with his height, and if he sort of works on his decision making. I think because I said he has the ability. I think he can go to the next level, and hopefully it's with you guys. I mean, if you look at his stats, you may think it's sort of not overwhelming stats when he played at Stanley, but he played in a lot of different with a lot of different back line in front of him. We went through, I think at one point had 19 first team members out with injuries, and it seemed like the back line, whether it be a 3 or a 4 or with wing backs, it seemed to be very inconsistent. And a goalie likes consistency. He likes to know who's in front of him. And he would never be the type of individual that would say or pass any blame on that. So he's got a good character that way. It's just it was hard on him, and I think his play and his ability are a lot better than what the stats. So if somebody looks at the stats and say, "Well, that seems average," or "Well, it's not," you have to take the circumstances of the season into consideration.
Well, I think this is the thing. So, sort of the headline stats for those that haven't seen, if I'm not mistaken, it was 10 clean sheets last season, in the league anyway, and in a relegation side, to me, I don't see how that can be deemed a bad thing. For me, 10 clean sheets in a season's good if you're mid-table. 10 clean sheets in a season when you're 23rd and and relegated.
Yeah.
To me, that's a really good haul, and it shows that he may be in a better team, and, a slightly more consistent backline, like you say. If he can control his area, then we might have a player. So what's the sort of feeling around the Accrington fans, with us getting Lukas Jensen? Did you think you had any chance of getting him? And then do you think that he was staying at League One level? If no,
I definitely think he would have liked to come back to Stanley, but I think for two things, he's definitely capable, as I said, of playing at League One. And the wage structure, as you know, Stanley is probably one of the lowest budgets in the EFL, and Andy Holt, the owner, has already said that he's going to be reducing the budget by about 30% from last season when it was a low. So I think a wage issue would have been a problem for him. And as I say, wages and the fact he should be playing at a higher level. I think there's certain fans are a bit disappointed because he didn't sign. But I think from a business point of view, you have to realize and understand that it was hit, especially being let go from Burnley. He had to look after himself. And these, I think you got him on a 3-year deal?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is coming. I mean, for a goalkeeper,
it might be two. Actually.
2 with an option or something. And
yeah, I can't remember whether he was 2 or 3. I've got to be honest.
So I think because he's at that age where he hasn't reached his top level yet, so you could be getting him at a time that at the end of his contract, if he develops like I think he can, you may be in a position you can't hold on to him because he could go to the next level. So, but you're going to have the opportunity to develop him at your club, and I think that's a good thing for you, for the club, and for him.
Yeah, definitely. I hope that that can sort of really come to fruition, and we can have a player on our hands for 2 or 3 years, however long it may be. And I'm trying to find out, but I can't seem to find it. But yeah, for sort of 2 or 3 years, however long it may be, and we can sort of really kick on and maybe even have a player on our hands that we can sell in a couple of years for some good money. I know goalkeepers don't always sort of warrant the big money, but sometimes you never know, do you?
Especially well, he's good. He's good with his feet, and he's good good reading on the counter, quick counter. So if he can sort of kick it, drop kick the ball low and pick up a breaking striker if the striker can get in the channels. So he's certainly got that in his game. So I think he's got all the tools.
That's really promising because we scored a couple of goals like that last season. So that's really promising to know that we've got somebody else that can come in and do that same thing.
Yep. Yeah, really I'm sad to see him go, but I didn't really anticipate him signing because, first of all, he was on loan. We never had him under contract, and he's obviously, we couldn't afford him, and he deserves to play at a higher level than the League Two.
That's really promising. Then everything that you've sort of answered my next question, because something I picked out earlier on when I was sort of looking through his stats and such for you guys last season. I saw we got an assist, so I was sort of going to ask whether that's a part of his game, and you've kind of already alluded to it.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, because he can, his awareness is good, because when he gets the ball, and he can see where maybe there's a press on from the other team, he can pick that up, and he can see about getting it down the middle or wide. And in fact, sometimes he might have overplayed that, but the idea and the thought process was there, which is encouraging. I'd rather them do that and maybe get it too long than not try at all. So he certainly is. He certainly has that in his bag. Yeah.
Oh, that's really, really good. That's really good. So, Accrington, then we'll sort of move on from Lukas Jensen. Like I say, everything you've said has sounded really promising. So I hope all the Imps listening are really happy with our latest signing. So yeah, Accrington. Obviously, tough season for you guys last time. You've already said that the sort of playing budget, the pro budget, is going to get reduced, as you'd expect with a relegation. But what are your sort of goals for League Two? I say goals. You're always going to want to try and sort of win the league, come straight back up, and all of that. But what's your realistic?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. And there'll be people that think that there's a mixed bag, because you'll get people will say that, we drop down, we should be able to go straight back up into League One. And there's the others think that, this is a slide, we could go down into non-league. But I think the realistic would be mid-table, in the top 10, maybe, possibly challenge for a playoff position. It depends on what signings they can bring in. They've got a few people under negotiations, and they haven't signed anybody new, because I think they basically have to see who's going to stay and who's going.
Right.
I mean, there's rumors that Tommy Lee could be leaving, and he's a talented midfielder that we have that again could play at the.
That would be a big loss for you.
Yes, it will, and Ethan Hamilton is another one that could be sold. But so I think you have to sort of. It's hard to say realistically, because for me, I prefer to make that prediction once all the signings are done and you've gone in. So, but realistically, yes, the top half finish. I think it's going to be tough when you look at the two teams that have come in, Notts County and Wrexham, where I think all the pundits are already putting them number one and number two. So if that's the case, then you're looking at really maybe the third automatic at best, or possibly a playoff. But I don't think, because one of the things, the key for us, and this is down to the owner, Andy Holt, is that he didn't penalize or punish the coaching staff because of a relegation like some other owners may do. He knows that. I don't think really, and I agree with him, that I don't think there's anybody better in League Two to get a team to overachieve and get them out of that division than John Coleman and Jimmy Bell. I think they haven't got the plaudits that they should. They've done really, when you say look at Stanley being in League One for 5 seasons, on the budget they had and the players that they signed from non-league, I think that's a credit to their abilities.
That's fair enough then. I think ultimately, I would like to see you guys come back up, because I actually don't mind an away day at the WAM. It might be slightly controversial, stood on that terrace. I actually really enjoy it.
The Coppice End, yes, it's. I'll tell you, when you sit in some of the stands and you can see, when it starts raining, because everybody in the Coppice End, and they're putting up their hoods and their their hats on and everything. But I
was quite lucky. The one time I've done it, which was last season, luckily it stayed dry, but it was bloody cold.
Well, I think it can start getting cold at Accrington, especially a night match. It can start like that in September, because then it gets damp and that. But it's the facilities and the money that Andy Holt's invested into the facilities now. I know it's only a small stadium, but it's a really nice atmosphere and a good League One, League Two stadium. And you know, we don't draw well. We're stuck in the middle of Blackburn and Burnley, but there are some good loyal fans, and it's always a good time to go and watch the Stanley match. And yeah, and we've always had good matches against Lincoln, and it seems like we in the trophy matches we always seem to come up against you guys and have some good matches, and especially the one I think it went to penalties. We just got the new guy in on loan, and he ended up winning in penalties, I think it was. But I think you guys have. I hope you do well because you had a good season the year before. And I think if you've done the right thing in getting a good stopper in Jensen, and for that, I think you've improved yourself there.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant. Well, thank you very much for that, then, Tony. So, like we said, Across the Pitch podcast, we shall get the links down in the description. So make sure to go and check them out.
We've been able to get some a good following. We're not a big following, but we get some loyal people, and we get the club is really nice. They provided players. We've interviewed the owner right down to coach and staff. We do a veteran series on past players. So if anybody wants to hear about Andy Holt or John Coleman, well, fortunately we tried to get Lukas Jensen, but at the one time he wasn't feeling well and he couldn't come on. Yeah, thanks for the plug, because we just try and promote the club and inform people, and I think it doesn't matter which team it is, as long as you can promote teams like yourselves. I think that's the main thing.
Exactly, it's always good to sort of be able to just learn more about all the other clubs in and around us. So yeah, go and check Tony and Across the Pitch podcast out, and I hope you enjoyed this sort of first video from myself on the YouTube. We're going to be having some plans to maybe try and use the YouTube a little bit more often, so let us know how you enjoyed this one down in the comments, and don't forget to do all the like and subscribe and all of that kind of stuff, and we shall see you later on. Thanks very much, Tony, and thank you everyone.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.